Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video, Lee's going to be creating a custom GUI so that you can have a little bit more fun with the application and build it out and play with it as a standalone and not have to rely on the editor and the public settings over here in the inspector.
Right. So what is a bonus on top of a bonus? Would that be like a second encore?
Bonus squared.
Yeah, bonus squared. All right. No bonus cubed on this one. Sorry,
Nope.
folks. Well, then again, there are maybe, 2, 3 more videos left. I might change my mind between now and then.
Well, you say that, but let's just see how you get flowing with this one. Maybe we'll just roll the whole GUI creation into just one video. Just see
Really?
how smooth it goes. Yeah.
Well, we still got playing around.
Yeah, we can do that
too.
in the next video if all the GUI stuff goes smooth in this one and
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah.
But we are talking about me here. I mean, very rarely does anything go perfectly smooth. But let's see what we can do, and we'll see where we get. All right, so I'm going to clean up some stuff. Matter of fact, we don't even need noise anymore. I'm going to close that. So I had so much luck closing those other ones and not having to go back to them. Let's see if I can stay on a roll. All right, we need to have another property. And let's put it right under here because this is going to be another Boolean. This is going to be a show options. And that's going to, oh, wrong key. All right, so that'll default to be false anyways. Inside of update, we're going to do a couple of checks. We're going to say if we're not using libnoise and input dot get mouse button down, and we're going to check for the right mouse button. If the right mouse button is down and we're not using libnoise, then we're going to set our show options to be equal to true. Single, I'm not evaluating. All right. So I'm basically going to make our options pop-up window like a context menu. We're going to right-click it to bring it up, and we're going to use the escape key to get rid of it. So our next check is going to be if we are using libnoise or input dot get key down, and the key code we're going to be looking for, not Lee code. I don't think I have any codes in here. We're going to look for escape. So either we toggle ourselves back into using libnoise or we hit escape. If either of those conditions are true, I want to set show options equal to false. The other thing that I want to do is where we're using libnoise set to true, so we started off in libnoise, I'm going to allow that to assign itself to false because I don't want to be looking at libnoise for the near future, but we'll still leave it there so we can toggle in and out of it if we want to. And if we are planning on using some sort of GUI, and I'm planning on implementing Unity's GUI stuff, to draw it, we're going to need the onGUI method. So we'll code that in. And what we want to do is we're going to check if basically if show options is set to false. So if show options are set to false, return. We don't want to execute anything that follows this. We'll set a couple of variables, one being x, I'm going to set it to 10, and for y, I'm going to set this to 10 as well. And I'll set this now. I'll come back and set that later. But we're basically setting the upper left-hand corner of our GUI window to do our GUI window, I'm going to do this really quick and dirty. We're not going to use GUI layout or get really fancy. I'm not going to make a GUI window and allow drag and drop. We're just going to make a GUI box. So our GUI box is going to need a rectangle. We're going to start it at position X, followed by position Y. It's going to be our screen width minus X times 2. So I'm essentially making sure that our spacing on the left and right are going to be the same, no matter what our window size is. And I'm going to set the height of our window to be 235 pixels in height. I'm going to give it a name, that being noise parameters. And I'm going to end that off. Hit enter, build it out, make sure there's no errors, and let's see what we got. So if I hit play, we should start off with a noise. If I right click, we get our little box that pops up, says noise parameters. This will contain our information for our parameters that we're going to be adjusting. We're going to have a list of our parameters, their current values, and sliders that will allow us to adjust them. If I hit F1, which jumps me over into Simplex, our parameters menu goes away like we expect it to. If I right click, nothing happens. If I hit F1, which puts us back into our noise library, I right click again, we get our menu back. If I hit escape, our menu goes away.
Very good.
So all the functionality that we wanted up to this point is working. All right. So now the next part. We'll start off with a toolbar. I want to be able to choose what noise that we're going to be using. So we'll create a toolbar, call it GUI dot, or call on GUI.toolbar functionality. We need to give it a new rectangle. Which will be our screen width. Let's see. Screen dot width divided by 2 minus 150. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the overall width of our screen, dividing it by 2, and subtracting 300 from, or 150 from it. So I'm centering it in the window, but because our toolbar has to have a width, and the width I'm going to be using is 300, I want to subtract half of that from it. So it's going to center our toolbar inside of our window. Oops. I want to offset it from our Y by 30 pixels. So it's going to be down 30 pixels from the top of our screen. That's the reason why I use the variables X and Y, is if I want to change, I'd like to be able to adjust one number and not have to go through every value from that point forward and adjust them by hand. That gets really annoying. So there's our width. Our toolbar will be 20 pixels high. And we need to pass in the value that it's going to be displaying. And what we're passing in is our noise type, and I'm casting it to an integer. And we have to give our toolbar labels some, whoops, missed a comma. We need to give our buttons on our toolbar some names. To do that, we'll create a new string array. And we'll assign it some values. So we'll pass in value. And I'll wrap that over. Perlin. Oh yeah, you couldn't figure that one out. Gives me all kinds of formatting stuff, but when I want one, it can't give it to me. All right. Followed by simplex. And watch, when I hit this, it's going to reformat everything. How'd I know it?
Well, it used to not do that until night before last when Nelson changed all that.
I'll refrain from comment. Oh, man. Well,
It's good enough. It's good enough.
it's almost there. I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it. Sorry. All right. So that's our toolbar. Now, we need a couple more things to make our toolbar work completely. One, when we check or when we click on one of the buttons, that has to update our noise type. So we have to assign the output of our noise type, but we have to cast it. So noise types. And let's see if I can find some way to reformat this after I went through everything else. All right. So there. All right. So what we're doing is our button is being assigned or casted to an integer. And what will be outputted by our GUI toolbar method is going to be an integer. But because noise type is enumeration, we have to recast that integer back into the enumeration types of the noise method to make sure that we get what we expect. So if I build this out and we play, we should get a toolbar. So here's our noise, right click. Now we get our noise bar. We've currently got simplex running, which is over here, it says simplex, looks like simplex. If I click on value, we switch over to value, noise type goes to value. If I click on Perlin, we switch over to Perlin, noise type is Perlin. So our toolbar is working as expected, and we can only have one type of noise selected at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, that takes care of our toolbar. Now we need to deal with some sliders. Now, all of our sliders are going to pretty much be in the same type of setup. There'll be a GUI label followed by a horizontal slider. So we'll start off with our very first one. So this will be a GUI.label. And just like everything else, it needs a rectangle. And we're going to give it x plus 10. So we're taking the x position of our box, we're padding it by 10, and we're going to take our y position of our box and we're going to add 50 to that. And our label will be 120 pixels wide by 20 pixels high. And it will display the output of string format. And inside of string format, we're going to start off with octaves. And inside of octaves, we'll set up the placeholder of 0, and we'll pass in octaves. We'll follow that up by...
What's that weird crinkling noise? Did the mic find your beard?
No. The crinkling noise is my hard drive spinning. I think the antivirus might have kicked in.
Ah, okay.
Doing its scan, I'm not quite sure. But that's what you hear.
Gotcha.
Well, that or my stomach, one of the two. That's been rumbling for a while, but the hard drive just kicked off for a while. So, but I'm pushing through it. All right, so The next thing we need is going to be a GUI horizontal slider. So we'll take the horizontal slider, and it's going to be another rectangle, which is going to look a lot like this rectangle, so I'm going to copy that rectangle. So instead of x plus 10, this will be x plus 125. So we're taking into consideration the width of everything plus an additional 125. And we're going to drop down another, let's see, this will be 55 pixels. So we're going to drop down 5 pixels to center it up with the label on the other one.
Mm-hmm.
This will also, the width is going to be done a little bit different because I want it to be able to size to compensate. So what we'll do is we'll look at the screen width. We're going to subtract the x times 2, which is the padding on both sides. And then from that, we're going to subtract another 140 pixels. Then we need to tell it what information to display, which is going to be the number that is held in octaves. We need to give it a range. The number of octaves I want our slider to control is going to have a minimum value of 1 and a maximum value of 16. Now that will give us our slider, but it won't work unless we update the information. So we have to take the information that comes out of our horizontal slider and assign that to our octaves. But horizontal slider passes out a float, so we have to cast that to an integer. So that will give us our slider. So if I hit and build this and jump back over, and we run, right click, we've got our first slider. So we've got octaves, currently set at a value of 6. Here's our slider. If I slide it to the left, we go down to a single octave. And as I keep increasing it, we get more and more octaves, and we eventually blow out, which is why we have a gain. So I can go ahead and dial this anywhere I want. Stop it. And let's code the other sliders. So the basic principle is the same for all of the other sliders in our menu. Our second one will be our frequency.
Our food.
Yeah.
You are getting hungry.
Yeah. Well, at least, I didn't say lawnmower out of nowhere.
This is true.
All right. We need to offset this, so we're going to drop it down by 70. So down by 70. Each slider is going to be 20 pixels below the previous one. And this one will drop down to 75. So set this here and here and here. And because frequency is a float, we don't have to cast it. Now the values that we're going to allow for our frequency are going to be a little bit different as well. We're going to allow our frequency from 0f to 1f, because I've found that above 1 on our frequency, you can't really see the difference. And while something else to note, while I'm putting in limits on these sliders, they aren't limits of the noise system. You can go above and beyond them, and you won't have a problem with a couple of exceptions. If you set octaves to 0, you're not going to get anything because it's not going to ever render, because you'll skip all your octaves. The other one to keep into consideration is the lacunarity. If you set lacunarity down to 0, the time it takes the noise to calculate just goes through the roof for some reason. It doesn't crash, doesn't give an error, it just gets really, really slow.
As we
So
saw
those are,
earlier.
yep, so those are the things that you want to consider. The reason I'm putting limits on these sliders is if I were to set the ranges really, really large, sliding back and forth is not going to be an easy thing. They won't be as responsive as they could be. So I'm putting in values that I found to be useful when I was playing around, as opposed to just allowing really, really large numbers. And I like saying really, really, apparently. All right, so our next one will be set at 90 and 95. This will be our lacunarity.
Stop. Go
What did I
ahead and
miss?
change the text on the label in your
No,
string format.
I want them all the same frequency.
Oh, I see.
I want people to guess what's going on. Yeah,
Just trying to help.
yeah, I know you are. Otherwise, I would have gone, nice, look. I've got multiple frequency sliders. All right. Persistence with an E. You'd never imagine how many times I misspelled that. Actually, you probably would. You're almost as bad at spelling as I am.
No, I'm worse.
See? Told you I misspelled it wrong. I was just joking. All right, so that's persistence. All right, this needs to go to 110. Yeah, 115. And this one will be gain. While I'm here, lacunarity will set to 0.1 to 1. Persistence will set to -2 to 2. And gain we will set to -2 to, let's go with 30. Now, I have found that larger negative gains are useful, but in the slider I'm just going to limit it to -2 because I want to have a large area to the on the positive as opposed to negative. Negative gains actually inverse your information. So let's set that to 30 by 30. And let's see what it looks like. All right, so octaves, frequency, lacunarity, persistence, gain, all of our sliders, 6 to 1.9, 1.8, and 0.18.
Mm-hmm.
So all those are right. All right, so far, off to a good start.
Yeah, we're getting close.
So the next one will be our step size. And this will be iteration. Oops. No, that's capital. This will be 150 by 155. And we're going to do 3 more. Just because they're so much fun. Now, before we can get into this, we'll have to come back up here, make a new variable. This one will be called color. No, it won't. Now it'll be called color. And inside of this, we're going to hold our transform dot GUI. Actually, I don't even have to. call that, I believe. I think I can just say GUI texture. Yep, sure can. Dot color. All right, so now I've got that. But you can't guess what these sliders are going to do. So this will be red. Color dot red. And these will be between the ranges of 0 and 1. For what?
You don't want to push them down any?
Nah, I'll do them all at once.
Okay.
That wasn't exactly what I had in mind. That's definitely not what I had in mind.
Oh, you did it twice. Very good.
No, it did it all on its own.
Oh,
Control
okay.
C, and I hit the down arrow, and it just erased them. No idea why that happened, though. All right. It wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me. All right, so change this to green. That to green. This one to green. Then blue. 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 And blue. Now, that will go to 70. 70. 90. 95. 210. And 215. All right. Build successful. All right. Right click. All right. Now, noise, all of that. Octaves, frequency, linearity, persistence, gain, step. Reds are all at 0.5 if we bring up the color of our texture. We are at 128 by 128 by 128, which equates to 0.5 and red, green, and blue channel. So it's exactly what we expect. So that is our parameter stuff.
So in the next videos, you're saving the playing with it until then?
I'm saving the playing with it until then, but I'm not done with this video yet.
Oh, okay.
Because once we start playing with it, it's just too much fun. So save it. Let's see. Let's go into build settings. Targeted for Windows, PC standalone, and let's build and run it. And we're there. Noise demo. And yeah, I want to. So, oh come on! It didn't give me my 400 by 400. Man, I can't believe that. Let's see what it does. Ooh, it works.
Kaboom!
But because it's a larger screen, we'll have to change the background so it displays right.
Well, hang on.
But
yeah, that's right. That's right. Nothing.
I was just going to change the camera. It's sized right.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll have to change the camera or the camera color just to make sure that we can see
what we're doing.
What we've got. So it's not like, oh my, look, he screwed it up. Change the background color to about a dark gray. That should be enough. So I'll build and run. Run. Play. There we go. So it works. And it's padded, sized, everything scales the way it should. not a sizable window, but
No.
okay.
All right, well, is that everything you wanted to cover in this video, getting it all put together? And the next one, we'll wrap up this entire R&D session with a little bit of playing around with it?
Playing time? Yeah.
All
So
right.
everything seems to be right. It's like, oh, we'll just come back next one and have some fun with it.
Awesome. Well, that will conclude this video. Thanks a lot, everyone.